Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the Gabler's Destroyer. It's a Tier 5 British light tank located on the southwest spawn of Arctic region under the command of Mr. Lan of the 322 clan. Game on! Well, I must admit, it does look like a wheeled vehicle, but in fact it is a tracked vehicle. I presume that it was designed so it could actually run around without the tracks on, because it certainly looks with those big tyres as if it's got that capability. But it is a light tank nonetheless. 57mm main gun, which is basically the equivalent of a 6-pounder, capable of doing 75 alpha and 95mm of pen. And oh, there's the enemy. It's a first shot. It's a 4-shot autoloader. You can see that he's blasted all 4 shots. The problem with it is that the reload and the dial-in time, the aiming time, are not compatible. So it takes 2 seconds to load in, but it only takes 1 second for it to reload the cartridge. So it means that it's not dialed in by the time it's ready to fire, and that could mean that you will miss your target. Now, he fired his first shot and that was accurate. Second shot was not. Missed the target altogether, because by then the rescue will have bloomed and he was not on target at all. But look at this. We've got an enemy tank, an AMD, managed to get behind us, and we've gone in and dealt some ram and taken him out with our last shots. It looks like he did take a hit from that M10 RBFM as well. The ram took 269 hit points from him. We only suffered 56 by return, and he thanked the M10 for that shot because that made a big difference. And it looks like that M10's got 3 marks of excellence on his barrel, so he's actually a very good player. But so is Mr. Lan. So it looks like the matchmaker is actually making it so that the good players are all together. Now notice how he's playing this one. He's actually waiting between each shot after it fires to just let it dial in, and that will make it much more accurate, so he'll get 4 shots on target rather than just the 1. Now he made as if he was going to move away there, but he didn't. Now you might also notice that on top of the vehicle, on top of the turret, there are 4 pipes. Now those are rocket launchers. This tank was actually designed in the 1940s, around about 1943 I think it was, and they actually were going to put rockets in them as well. The idea being to actually fire those rockets at the enemy. They're facing forward, so wherever the turret's pointing, the rockets will go. But a lot of rockets which were fitted to British, American and French tanks, they were actually designed to scare the enemy. So if you suddenly ran into an enemy tank, you'd fire the rockets at them to scare them and then quickly escape before they could do anything in return. They weren't specifically designed to kill the enemy or to actually frighten them and give them some distraction. There's that Stug. Now he fires his last 2 shells, but the last one was the most accurate one of all, even though he'd already fired 4 shots. Now the standard reload is 13.04 seconds for 4 shells, so it's fairly quick for 4, but remember they're low caliber. There's a Gabler destroyer as well, and he's hitting this guy very well. In fact, he slowed the fire rate to actually make sure that those shots were accurate. Top speed of this thing, 65 kilometers an hour, which is actually quite fast for a light tank. It's a reasonably good speed. 1 shot, 2, 3, and notice the 3rd one didn't go in, but the first 2 did, and he slowed his fire rate again. So if you do have a Gabler destroyer, and most of you should have it, then try only firing 1 shot at a time, and make sure that when you do fire, that it's fully aimed, and slow it down so that the shells hit the target. Because if you try and speed it up to discharge all the shells at once, you probably won't hit the target. Well, he's got more than a few shells on that KV-1, and the KV-1's just been killed. I think he got about 5 shots on that KV-1 alone. Okay. The engine bay is a bit of an overhang, you can see, so it's actually fairly easy to hit this thing in the engine bay. So that's something you've got to watch out for. If you poke your rear up, you're more than likely going to get a shell in it. Is it going to go down into the gully again? No. Changed his mind. I think he's going to go up to the top of the mouse. It's not the mouse, is it? It's the duck, and he's going to shoot from here. I say duck because on the mini-map it does look like the figure of a duck. Oh, now that T-34 was spotting us, and the M10 said, I want a piece of him, and he's gone right to the edge, that M10. Okay, we've got the better of this T-34, and he discharges all 4 rounds in and picks up another kill. So that's 2 kills now. Unfortunately, the M10 went over the edge and he crashed to the bottom, which is a shame because that was a good player and he just got overextended. 1 shot takes out the Covenanter. So that's 3 kills now. Now, it is perfectly possible for Wargaming to actually put rockets into the game, and there was a lot of tanks that actually did have rockets fitted to them. Some of them actually had fairly big rockets, the sort of rockets you actually saw on aircraft being fired at tanks. And if they were to put those rockets into the game, well, it would take another key to actually activate them. They need another key on the keyboard so you can actually fire those rockets. But it would have a substantial effect on the game. And it would almost be like the rockets that you find on the Chinese tanks. A bit of a novelty, being able to rocket your enemy to death with a sudden volley of 3.7-inch shells, because they are basically almost like artillery shells in their capability, what they can do. Gabler's destroyer wasn't actually produced, it wasn't put into production, but it's a novel idea for the Christmas gift, and I like the way that you do have to think about how you're going to shoot to actually get 4 accurate shots. And that's the first time I think we've seen that Mr. Lan has actually got 4 accurate shots right on target. And notice how he misses the RT round by actually pulling back. He heard the rumble, he knew RT was on the way in, and he's just picked up another 2 kills from that and dodged an RT shell. He's fully aware, if he hears that rumble in the distance, he knows an RT round is inbound, and he heard it again and he moved out the way. So Mr. Lan is well clued up on how the game runs. And of course, he is a very good player. We've got lots of replays by Mr. Lan, and some of them are absolute humdingers. So if you ever do get the chance, watch them. Oh, look at this cheeky! An FP304 managed to sneak up, but unfortunately he didn't remain hidden, and he's now been taken out. And that's the Top Gun. And the other enemy RT, which is the Gorilla, just fired another round in to try and catch Mr. Lan, but failed to do so again. Ooh, yes, it's a very light vehicle. It only weighs 26 tons. So at that sort of speed, if you hit a ridgeline, you can actually go flying into the air. Now, something you may have noticed is it's 2 versus 2, and both teams have an Arty, and one team has a tank destroyer. The enemy team, they've got a Basotto, which of course is a tier 6 tank destroyer, otherwise known as a Dash Hound. It's an Italian tank destroyer, looks very much like a Scud, and it does have a high caliber weapon. Capable, it does carry a 102mm main gun, which can do considerable damage. And of course, on our team, we've got the Gabler's destroyer with Mr. Lan. And so technically, I think we've got the advantage. You notice that Basotto has only got 1 kill, whereas Mr. Lan is already on a Top Gun. And if he was able to take out both the enemy tanks, he could actually pick up a Radley Waters. Our Arty, an M41 HMC, is staying in the corner, which I think is actually a bit of a mistake because he ought to move from that position. In fact, I would suggest that he'd be much better off going up the west side of the map when he gets to this gap here, cutting straight across towards the enemy cap area. I've done that many times myself, used the W key, relocated, and caught the enemy unaware. They certainly never expect an Arty to come up behind them. Well, he's being very cautious, but with good reason, because he doesn't want to get ambushed by the Basotto, who could be sitting around his cap area, waiting for Mr. Land to suddenly appear. You notice the hit points are around about the same, in fact, almost identical. Mr. Land's team has 738, whereas the enemy team 739. That kind of indicates the gorilla is 100% full health. And, well, the Basotto's maybe taken one hit. Now, I'm not sure he can actually get through there, but it's pretty amazing to try. Yeah, he managed to get through without flipping himself over. I wouldn't recommend doing that if you're an unpracticed player. Now, yes, the Basotto could be up there, so he's going to spray that area with rounds just to see if he actually gets spotted. And he wasn't spotted. He was close enough to the bush that the bush mechanic wouldn't have worked, so if the Basotto was up there, he would have been paying attention. Now, I should have mentioned right at the start, in fact, Mr. Land has actually opted to have the APCR Premium as his standard ammunition in this game, which means, of course, he's got 130mm of pen instead of the standard pen, which obviously is the 95mm of pen. He does have some 8G rounds as well, and they're capable of 100 alpha and 30mm of pen. So he could use those on the gorilla, but of course on the other side of the coin, if he was to do that, this thing with the 75 alpha, he'd probably be better off having 4 rounds of standard armor piercing or armor piercing. And he's not here. Now that is surprising. It means that the Basotto was not waiting in ambush at this end, and he could actually be out hunting after that M41 of ours. No sixth sense has gone off. I think that there's going to be a hefty bill for Mr. Land at the end of the game. After all, firing nothing but armor-piercing composite rigid is going to be rather expensive, but on the other hand, he's having a bit of fun. And there have been a few players who've actually managed to get first ace tankers. Oh, I just saw a round. A round coming from a gorilla. There he is. Your sharp eyes, you see the shells leaving, and all these shells are going to hit the target, and he does end up with a ammo rack. That means he's got 7 kills, but we did lose the M41. I don't know if you saw that, but it did happen whilst we were focusing on the gorilla. The Basotto has killed the M41. Another reason to say that he should have actually relocated and headed north. And we've been spotted. And there he is. He's looking at us. Oh, he hits us with the 100mm gun. But we're plastering him with shells. We're now into the last minute, but the Basotto, well, I think we've got the advantage on him purely by the number of shells we can fire at him. And he gets him and wins the game. Well done, Mr. Land! Here's the end of battle results, and that was an ace tanker game for Mr. Land in the Gabler's Destroyer. He managed to get a duelist for taking down 2 tanks who damaged him, a bruiser medal for getting at least 5 critical hits, in fact he got 13. He got a demolition expert because he blew one of the enemy tanks apart. In fact, that was the gorilla he managed to detonate. And he got a fire for effect for doing more damage than the hit points for his own vehicle. He also picked up some epic medals and battle hero medals as well. First, he got the Rattling Waters medal. That's for killing 8 enemy vehicles. And of course, you can see them all here. You have to scroll the page in order to see them all. He got an Oryx medal. That means he killed at least 2 or more enemy tank or tank destroyers in a light tank in a battle that were at least 1 tier higher than his own. And remember, he was tier 5 and he was taking out tier 6 opponents, as well as Piscucci's medal for killing the FB304 and then the gorilla at the end of the game. And he also got a high caliber for dealing the most damage in the game and a top gun for getting at least 6 kills. Sadly, we don't have the win 8 for this battle, even though it would have been very impressive, mainly down to the fact I think win 8 wasn't working on that occasion. And of course, they haven't loaded the graphic for the Gabler's Destroyer onto what record yet, but presumably they will as soon as Wargaming comes up with it. If we look at team score, we can see the highest damage was 3,332, and that went to Mr. Lan. Second highest damage was the Basotto, and he only managed 1,374, followed by, in fact, the M10 RBFM. Now, that's the good player, the one with 3 marks on his barrel. He got 985, but of course he was taken out because he fell over the edge of the cliff. He was desperately trying to get at that T-34, and he overextended too much and fell off the cliff and crashed down to his death down below. So, when it came to kills, we've got, Mr. Lan getting the highest with 8 kills. Joint second is the M41 HMC, the KV1, and on the enemy team, the Stugtai Ausrungi, the M10 RBFM on their team, the Gorilla on their team, and their Jagdpanzer 4 all managed 2 kills apiece. Everyone else, I've got 1 kill or nothing. And when it came to base XP, well, Mr. Lan really did excel on this one because he got 2,070 base XP, which is an incredibly high score. You don't normally see players get over 2,000. It's, in fact, rarely you see players get over 1,000. But no, he really did do well in this game. Second highest was the M10 RBFM with a 3 marked barrel. He got 689, and the third highest in this game actually went to the Basotto on the enemy team, who managed 580. Mr. Lan fired 65 rounds. Now, this tank does actually carry more than enough ammunition to survive a battle. It's actually capable of carrying 100 rounds, so he wasn't worried at any time that he was going to run out of ammo. He still had 35 rounds left. 50 direct hits, 44 penetrations. Most of the reason why he didn't get as many penetrations as he would like was down to the fact, of course, that unusual firing pattern, the way that you have to hold on to the second shell and the third shell and the fourth shell after they fired, just to so the gun can dial in on the target to make it accurate. So it's that cadence that you've got to learn between each shot, not to fire automatic, but to pause between each shot, and that's why he didn't get as many direct hits as he would have liked. 3,332, of which 832 were at more than 300 meters, so you can see most of his damage was done at close range. 3 hits received from the enemy, all 3 penetrated. One of those actually came from the Basotto as well. 4 enemy vehicles were spotted, 12 enemy vehicles were damaged, 8 were killed, and he got 697 hit points of spotting assist out of the game. On a premium count, he actually made a loss, and this is down to the fact that he was firing APCR, and I did say that during the game. He actually made a loss of 77,786 credits, and you can see here that his reward for completing the mission was only 3,711. So, yes, his ammunition costs was where it cost him 130,000 credits just for ammunition. The standard ammunition, with its 95 penetration, is more than enough, really. But I think Mr. Lamb was trying to make a point. He was actually out to get a good victory, and that's why he used the APCR. He actually picked up 18,505 experience points after this one as well, including 12,606 from the holiday ops. So it was definitely beneficial in that terms. So what a fantastic game there, Mr. Land. A lot of players taking out these new tanks and showing off their skills with these new ones, because of course they're getting them fresh and they're taking them out and showing everyone how good they really are. And this wasn't the first ace that Mr. Land had with this tank. He's had them before because, of course, he's got no scrolls underneath. So it means that this was maybe his second or third or fourth ace tanker with the same vehicle. But this was the first one where he got the Radley Waters out of it as well. And because it's tier 5, you can get all of the bigger medals, the Pools medals, the Radley Waters. So it's definitely worth having a go. If you're a good player like Mr. Land, you could be coming back with a whole basketful of medals from this tank because a 4-shot autoloader, just have to learn that cadence with the shooting. And then, yes, you'll definitely be coming back with a few medals. Hope you enjoyed that replay. If you did, please give this video a like. Do subscribe to our channel. Leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm. And thank you for watching.